Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and members. I stand here before you to give a closing speech because for me, House Bill 12 is personal. Like some of my colleagues have shared with you today, I too am the son of immigrants. But I also stand here before you as a state representative from District 103. And a cursory review of your website will reveal that almost 50% of the constituents that I represent are foreign-born. And about 42% of those constituents are non-citizens. So I fear that the burdens of House Bill 12 will fall squarely on the people I represent. And so House Bill 12 is personal for them too. The immigrant population in District 103 includes some of the finest and most hardworking people in the state of Texas. They're people that you're going to find on a roof or in a construction crew in the middle of the summer when the temperature gauge exceeds 100 degrees. You trust them to take care of your children, and you give them the keys to your house to do your dirty laundry. There are people of faith who fill the churches of all traditions, and they're responsible for a faith revival in many waning congregations in Dallas. Yet the rhetoric surrounding this bill and bills like it that have been filed in this House and in this legislature are laden with references to crime, terrorism, illegality. And members, let me say, I understand those fears. If there are people who are trafficking drugs, I want them gone. If there are terrorists who hate this country, I want them eliminated. If there are criminal gangs, I want them stopped. But I'll tell you, that's just not me, and that's just not you. It is everybody in Texas, immigrant and non-immigrant alike, documented and undocumented alike. The constituents that I represent who are undocumented hate criminal gangs, hate drug dealers, hate narcos, hate terrorists as much as any of us in this room. But I will tell you, the people I represent are not criminals. They're people. They're made in the image of God. They're workers, they're mothers, grandmothers, and children. They're our neighbors and our brothers and sisters. The irony, members, is that while the focus here has been on immigrant crime, and you've heard a lot of discussions of drive-bys and drug dealing, House Bill 12 actually makes all of our constituents less safe. In my amendment offered last week, I asked that we defer to the chief law enforcement officers from around the state so that they can prioritize local resources without state interference to fight violent crime and drug crime. And that amendment was not adopted. I carried that amendment because if someone is knocking down the back door of my home in the middle of the night when I'm here in Austin and my wife and children are inside, I do not want the beat cop taking in an undocumented grandmother for no proof of insurance and waiting 4 hours for ICE to arrive. I want them at my house answering the 911 call. I want them there fast, quick, and in a hurry. I know all of you want that too. Last night, a member of this House accused other members of grandstanding after these members shared what I thought were very heartfelt and personal stories. I found that comment unbelievable. I'll tell you what grandstanding is. Grandstanding is the governor declaring sanctuary cities an emergency item to further political ambition in the face of a $27 billion deficit. Grandstanding is members of this body and of the legislature talking real tough on immigration back home and then coming to the House and saying, I really don't like this bill, but we just need a record vote. Grandstanding is gratuitously creating fear in the community that I represent by filing bills and bills like this, instead of working constructively with our members of Congress and our senators to fix our federal system or even exempt school children from the effects of this bill. Speaking of the children that we refuse to exempt from this bill, Thomas Jefferson High School sits right on the north boundary of the district I represent. The school building is not in the district, but most of the kids who go there live in District 103. So I have with me today a copy of the Thomas Jefferson document, which was commemorated the students in Thomas Jefferson in 1968, same year that I believe the author of the bill graduated. And if you look at page 103, you'll see a picture of a handsome young lad named Bert R. Solomons, who was a member of the Latin Club and the swimming team. I think Chairman Keffer also went to TJ, I believe class of 1972. He played football. When these gentlemen and great members of this House went to TJ, it was 5% Hispanic. Today it's 93% Latino. TJ, in some ways today, is very different, but in other ways, in very important ways, it's the same. Students may look different, but it's the same hardworking people in the community, just as their parents were. Many of these people have 2 jobs and care very deeply about the education of their children. They're family-oriented. They go to church. They have picnics in the park. And yes, many of them make our lives a lot easier. There's an interesting point, however, as I was perusing the Thomas Jefferson document from 1968. And there's a reference to the ROTC. The ROTC when Bert was in high school, the Reserve Officer Training Corps. Keep in mind, members, this is 1968, middle of a tumultuous time in this country. And there were only about a dozen kids, maybe a couple dozen kids in ROTC. So we called over to TJ, Thomas Jefferson High School, talked to the colonel who runs the ROTC program today. He was very proud to say that he has about 300 kids in ROTC. He expects it's going to grow to 400 next year. And here's the interesting part. It's estimated that more than half of those kids are undocumented. At least they're non-citizens. So when our office asked him why a kid would go into the ROTC knowing they couldn't go into the armed forces because they may be undocumented, he says that they're just hoping the law is going to change. More than anything, they want an opportunity to serve and to be welcome in this, their adopted country. TJ is a safe place for them today because the Dallas Independent School District that I had the honor of serving as a trustee for, has a policy that DISD law enforcement officers don't ask immigration status in school. But now with HB 12, if it passes, this policy is gone, and these kids may be subject to producing papers. Bert said he thought this was a good bill. I can't say the same. I would ask Bert, after the session's over, to come with me to TJ, his alma mater, as a very distinguished alumni. I know the students would be very, very proud to have him there. I'd ask him to stand next to me and explain to these students who are filled with hopes and dreams, just like Bert R. Solomons was in 1968, and explain to them how House Bill 12 is good for them. I hope he agrees. I hope we can do it together. Bert, I consider you a friend, and always a worthy ally, sometimes adversary. Bert's done some amazing work in this body, but I would hate for this to be his legacy.